Single I salute. I'm Lord Maitreya, the hip hop futurist. You're now tuned into the Super Longevity Institute podcast. This evening, I have an incredible guest. She's a humanitarian, a beacon of hope, a courageous innovator who is the CEO and founder of Bioviva, a biotech company whose mission is to accelerate the path to human trials for life-saving gene therapies. She's carrying the torch in genetic engineering by being the first to use gene therapies her company is researching. Ladies and gentlemen, hip hoppers worldwide, Elizabeth Parrish. Welcome to the
Hi,
podcast.
so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to be on a hip hop station. That is
Thanks.
so awesome.
Let me ask you something. How did you come up with the name Bioviva? I love that name, by the way. It's catchy.
I wish that I could say that I came up with it. It actually was one of my scientific advisors. His name is Ali Falla, and he came up with the name Bioviva, long life through biotechnology, and I absolutely loved it. And he said that I could have it.
Wow. Well, he did. It's definitely a great name. How'd you What's the story behind Bioviva? Because I know you're the founder and the CEO. I know there has to be a great story behind this.
Well, it
Forming the
is,
company.
it's an interesting story. So from 2011 to 2013, I volunteered my time for the advocacy of the use of stem cells. So I was lucky enough to learn about regenerative medicine during that time because in 2013, my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Wow.
So when I was in the hospital with him, I was frantic asking, what do you have in stem cells? Can you biobank his pancreas? What sort of genetic therapies are available for kids like this? And they said, well, look, lady, your child has a treatable disease. Consider yourself lucky. There are kids here who are dying. And I didn't feel lucky at all. As a matter of fact, I felt terrible.
Right.
Why do we let these kids die when I just spent, you know, 3 years of my life, over 2 years of my life studying regenerative medicine and all of these amazing technological leaps that we had already made and that some people claim to be using in humans around the world in medical tourism. And they said, well, that's experimental medicine. We don't use that in humans. And I was like, okay, they always say, find the need and fill it. And
That's right.
I found my need.
Right.
I was needed by everyone to expedite therapeutic medicine and to help people get access to it who are dying. There are children who are dying. So I went looking for cures for kids, and I found a conference about genetics. It was in the UK, and I thought, well, this is it. The reason that stem cells work are their genetics. They have all the same genes as every other cell, so it must be a genetic problem. And this conference had the professor of genetics from Harvard at it, so I was very interested. But the conference was about aging, and I wasn't sure that I got that. It was Aubrey de Grey's SENS conference. It was 2013, and I met Aubrey de Grey, and I listened to his message.
One second. 1 second. Can you please tell my audience who is Aubrey de Grey? Because they might not know who he is.
Yeah, well, Aubrey de Grey, for our generation, is really the leader in gerontology. He is someone who has spent a great deal of his time now researching, understanding the science, and proliferating that to the world. And he created a nonprofit called the SENS Foundation. And it takes in nonprofit donations in order to put that money into research projects that can one day reverse biological aging. So this was really quite fascinating that I ended up in this hot spot of technology. And I got to talk to George Church, and since the inception of my company, he's actually been a scientific advisor of it. Wow. And I got to meet all of these people who.
Tell my viewers who George Church is.
Oh, so he's the professor of genetics at
Wow,
Harvard University,
incredible.
and he's a huge proponent to treat biological aging. He's been part of a myriad of projects that have gotten interest in the media over the last couple of decades, like
Mm.
bringing back the woolly mammoth, and some more really useful genetic engineering, like bringing back the permafrost grass in
Wow,
Siberia that could help us significantly with global warming.
wow.
So there's a whole bunch of uses for gene therapy. So at this conference, I learn about aging, and I find out that the same type of treatments that would treat biological aging also will treat childhood disease.
That's
So
right.
we have ethically the mandate to move forward to help people who are dying of aging that have no other treatment. Aging is 100%, comes with 100% mortality rate today, and we could actually get cures to kids faster. So that's that's
Wow.
that's my story. Sorry, that was super long.
No, that's great. Um, Progeria, did I say that right? Is that the childhood disease that are affected by the children?
Progeria.
Progeria. Thank you for
Hmm.
correcting me. Wow, what a wonderful story. I know a lot of people don't know about progeria and that it's accelerating it biologically accelerates aging in kids. So
Hmm.
it's like, you're not only helping the elders, you're helping the little ones too. It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Hmm.
there's more conditions than even progeria that treating
Mm.
aging will help. So, for instance, one of the gene therapies we look at increases muscle mass,
Mm.
and that was a gene therapy initially used in children with muscular dystrophy.
Right. Wow. Um. Wow. Incredible. I'm so inspired by your company and what you're doing, and just what you're all about, Elizabeth Parrish.
Thank
You're
you.
definitely an inspiration, and people are gonna see why after this show. They're gonna, because I want to introduce new people in the fold. I don't want to just preach to the choir, and that's part of what Super Longevity Institute is about. You know,
Yeah,
get,
we need some hip hop in the longevity area. We
hmm
need an expansion. We need
yes,
people from like all different
that's right.
uh, ideas to come in because the
Yes,
future isn't homogenous. The future is diverse.
diverse.
And the beauty about genetics is, when I first started, a lot of people said, well, you have to be careful of genetics because people are worried about eugenics, which was this idea that you could have the perfect people through breeding genetics.
Right.
But the beauty about what we're doing about genetic engineering and gene therapy is it's about the diversity.
That's right.
It's about the future for you hopefully has no aging. And if you want to be green, yellow, or purple,
That's
or
right.
have pink or blue hair, your future is unlimited. And
That's
it's
right.
it's about diversity. It's about
Yes.
divergence rather than bringing things into a narrow fold. I
Yes.
love that.
Yes. And can you just okay? Let me back up a little. Um, what else? I know you're taking some experimental drugs. What are some of the experimental drugs that you're taking as of now? And how long you been taking them? And have you had any success with it with any of the therapies?
Yeah, so I have taken several gene therapies. Right now, you have to excuse me because I'm a little bit swollen here because
Can't tell. Can't tell
I've
at
been
all.
to the dentist, and so
Can't tell.
I
I'm
mean,
telling you, you can't
um,
tell. We wouldn't even
so
know.
good.
Hmm.
I've taken 4 different gene therapies. I've taken telomerase-induction.
Hmm.
I've taken follistatin. I've taken clotho, and I've taken PGC1 alpha. And if you want me to describe what those do briefly, I can.
Please do.
Okay, so a telomerase-inducing gene therapy, it's called HTERT. The gene codes for an enzyme called telomerase, and what it does is it lengthens the caps at the ends of your chromosomes.
Mm,
Sorry, my kitty is scratching again.
that's okay.
And what that does is it makes it so that your cells have more cellular divisions. So, lifespan of several organisms, including humans, is based on how many cellular divisions that your body can have. And if you want to live a long time, you're going to need long telomeres. So,
Mm,
this is what this therapy does: is hopefully it will help humans break the bottleneck of lifespan. And also short telomeres are associated with all the diseases of aging. So therefore, we want to keep those telomeres long.
Wow.
So the next gene therapy I took was called follistatin, and what it does is it blocks an enzyme in your blood called myostatin, and it increases your muscle mass. And so people over the age of 32 start to lose about 1% of muscle mass a year. And we want to keep people strong. So we want to keep old people from falling down, having accidents, and we want to keep them active. So, you know, your life isn't so great if you can't move.
That's right.
And so another one that I took is called Clotho, and it is associated, higher levels of it are associated with protection against cardiovascular disease, increased
Oh,
intelligence, and protection against chronic kidney disease.
wow.
When you knock Clotho out of animal models, they age super fast, kind of like the disease that you talked about earlier, progeria. Even though that's not associated with Clotho, that's associated with telomere length. It's similar in animal studies. So you knock Clotho out and you get mice that live a couple weeks and they die of old age. So the last one is called PGC1 alpha, and what it does is it helps with your mitochondrial biogenesis. And so let me make that really simple, just because we don't want to leave anyone behind.
That's
And
right.
I'm telling you, just a matter of a couple of years ago, I didn't know what the hell this meant either.
Either.
So let's
Not at
be
all.
real here. You're not
That's
born
right.
with this knowledge.
Exactly.
Um,
That's right.
so mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. They create ATP. They create the energy that helps us, helps our cells actually live and helps give energy to our muscles and to our minds. And so PGC1 alpha makes those mitochondria more robust, and it makes it so you have more of them. So the idea is to help people with metabolic disorders. And so if somebody was grossly obese, this might help them. Or if they wanted to be more productive in sports, this might have a huge benefit. So anything in between. So remember, the future is kind of like things that enhance our body are also preventative medicine. So
Right.
being smarter, faster, healthier are all sort of enhancements, but they are all also survival.
Wow. Sounds like a wonderful strategy. I know that the better function of your mitochondria is good for prevention of things like Parkinson's and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah, that's how PGC1 alpha was found. It was
wow.
actually found in research for Parkinson's disease. Good
Mm,
call.
yes. My father
My-
has Parkinson's, so I went crazy diving into what can help him. But he's doing all right. Dad, wow. Thanks for breaking that all down. How long have you been taking these therapies?
Well, gene therapy you generally take once. I've taken gene therapy a
Oh.
couple of times because the first time I took gene therapy in 2015, I only had the 2 candidate gene therapies. It was this year that I decided to take the other 2.
Mm. And do you think you made any progress with any of them in the lab? Did you find any good findings? Any good biomarkers? Did you find anything? What was your
Well, we
findings?
hired a biostatistician to look over all of my data now, especially since it's gonna be like a roller coaster. I went up, I did it, then I go back up and I do it again. And now we work with a company called Integrative Health Systems,
I
where
see.
now several people have participated in this type of
Yeah.
technology. And that's when things get interesting to
Yeah.
see what happens in more than one person. So I definitely feel that I had benefits, and we saw benefits in lower blood glucose levels, lower
Oh.
triglycerides,
Oh my.
increased muscle mass.
Mm.
But can you do that to 10 people and then 20 and then 100? That's the $1 million question.
How does one even get into being able to take experimental drugs like that? I mean, it has to be some type of process. How did you get? First off, it's very courageous. It's one thing to say, "Yeah, I'm gonna come up with some therapies and take," being a scientist. And there's another step that taking them to yourself is just another leap of faith that a lot of others, more of us, is gonna have to do. I feel like.
Yeah, we're going to have to. So, so after my son was diagnosed and I went and met all these amazing researchers, I met amazing medical doctors, I met people who really wanted to push forward this type of technology. I built a team of scientific advisory board and experts, and we looked at the two most promising gene therapies. Those were the first two that I took, which was the telomerase inducer and the myostatin inhibitor, the one that increases your muscle mass. And I realized I had started this company and we needed human data. I really didn't want to produce more animal data.
Exactly.
To me, it seemed ridiculous. All of the gene therapies we look have extended the lifespan of mice by about 30%, and mice
Wow.
are not humans. And so, like, what does it really mean to us? So we discussed that we should do the first human test, and I decided that I should do it because if
Wow.
something happened to the person who participated, I would feel really bad, and it really was my cause. And you know, I see my son suffer with a chronic disease every
Mm,
single day.
right.
So I at that point I just said, you know, you guys, I just couldn't live with myself if I wasn't the first person to
Wow.
do it. So let's just do it. And it was I actually wrote a lot during that time, and it was, I think of it as now as like, oh yeah, we knew this would work out. We didn't, and we still don't know the long-term effects of it. So it is new technology, but it's certainly more promising technology than doing nothing, because right now we already know how you'll die. It's one of
That's
about
right.
6 different ways, and that's it.
That's right. I salute you. I mean, that's that's not an easy
Yeah.
thing to do. I definitely salute you. I mean, I'm impressed. I'm extremely impressed. And you know what? And this longevity, pushing being a spokesperson for longevity is one thing, but when you start getting when you experimenting with the drugs itself is another. And I think that there's so many ways for people to get involved. It doesn't have to just, salute to all the scientists. You're doing a wonderful job, and I'm extremely inspired by what you guys are doing in the lab. But there's other stuff that other people. It's an inclusive thing, and you can bring your talents to, pushing the envelope. Pushing the movement in longevity.
We need
We
everyone.
need
We
everyone.
need
That's right.
everyone. It's we don't, you know, a lot of people, although I had a lot of male colleagues that were CEOs of companies that had similar backgrounds to mine that people didn't question. People really did question me when I came into the
Mm,
area. They said, "Wait a minute, you're not a medical doctor and you're not a PhD." Well, guess what? I found out we have plenty of those. The thing that we didn't have is a business person to push them forward and to
that's
make
right.
it actually happen. And so I am the glue to those people who needed me.
Right.
I'm no hero. I tried to save my sons from his disease and try to cure childhood disease. I took a bunch of therapies because I feel committed that it's the right thing to do, and it would be the wrong thing not to do something if you thought that it could maybe help billions of people.
Right.
But I really just I'm just a doormat to the universe. I just needed to come in, glue some people together so that they could do their job. So it's the medical doctors that work with integrative health systems that put their license on the line every time they treat a person. And it's
Right.
all of these researchers and amazing scientists that came up with this science, or we wouldn't have it to use. So I have a lot of thankfulness for everyone who's done all of that work. And all I have to do is talk publicly about it and just tell you the honest to God truth. We're going to die of aging, and
That's
our
right.
children are dying of potentially treatable diseases
That's
before
right.
they even get to be old.
Right.
And then if we don't do something about it, we know that the end game, it's not about money, it's not about
Right.
ego. We are dying.
That's right. There's nothing glamorous about this. This move.
No, there
Yeah.
isn't. And
Yeah.
so if we need you, we need everyone listening to this. If you're like, oh, well, what do I have to offer? I don't have any background. Oh, you have a lot to
That's
offer.
right.
Every one of us has a superpower, and you can do it to make a better world. You can use that superpower.
That's right.
I can tell you what it is. I can talk to somebody for 10 minutes and go, oh, I know what your superpower is, because we need everyone on board.
That's right. And Let me ask you something. I got to get this out. How did you get up with the Dalai Lama to ask him about life extension? I was like, how did she do that? I was like, how do you get you can't just call the Dalai Lama up and be like, can I speak to the Dalai Lama? Is he available for an interview?
That was really cool. And I actually,
Love it.
so when you meet the Dalai Lama and have an experience with him, they will often give you a scarf. And I gave it to my son
Wow.
because he was my inspiration for being there.
Right.
So I got offered the opportunity to meet the Dalai Lama because of my humanitarian effort to help people through genetics.
Exactly. Exactly. Makes sense to me. That was dope. I was like, wow. I was amazed. I was like, wow, look at this.
I
All
was
right.
amazed too. And
It's
I
an
was
amazing
actually amazed.
experience.
He
I
was
love the
so
Dalai Lama.
He was so funny, man. I had no idea. I did not
Yeah.
know who this guy was. And he was so funny. He was so down to earth.
Yeah. Oh
He
yeah.
had us all laughing so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And he definitely enjoys life. He's enjoying life as we wish we could in every moment, it seems.
I know he's well traveled. He speaks to everybody. Everybody wants to sit down and talk to him.
He's
Wow,
cool.
wonderful. Okay, let's see. Oh, can you tell us some of the products like the Timekeeper and the methylation kit that you have? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a lot of people, you know about your DNA. You know about companies like 23andMe and
Yes.
Dante Lab, where you can look at what your DNA is. But there's this whole other level to your DNA, and it's called epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
And epigenetics are whether genes are turned on or off. And it just so happens to correlate with your age. And so since we do bioinformatics for a company called Integrative Health Systems that actually does treatments in humans,
Mm-hmm.
we wanted the best biomarkers to see how we could identify how well the therapy is performed. Are the patients younger or not? Sorry, I love
Can
my cat,
Can you give
but
me?
I'm allergic to her.
Oh, I'm allergic. I like the cats too. I'm allergic to them too.
I'm so allergic
That's
to her,
all
and I
good.
always pick her up, and then I go, well, I gotta get it too.
You what was I gonna say? I forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh,
Wait, hold
probably
on.
was
Oh,
about the methylation kit. I know
oh,
somebody like
that's what I
rubbing.
wanted to say. Thank you. What is biomarkers for my viewers? Because that's a medical term that they might not be familiar
Yeah.
with.
So when you go to the doctor, you do things like have your blood pressure taken and you give some blood and they test some things in your blood. Those are biomarkers. So what those tell the doctor is, do you have high cholesterol levels? Do you have high blood pressure? And those kind of markers help us find out how well the treatment worked. So for instance, if you took a treatment for high blood pressure, you would expect your blood pressure to be lower
Mm,
after treatment.
right.
And in the case of treating biological aging with a gene therapy, we're looking at your epigenetics. So we're looking at what genes were changed inside your cell if
Mm,
you actually are biologically younger after therapy. But
wow.
you can take a test like that. Let's say you want to try some of this fasting stuff. That's really tough for me because, I like to just eat when I eat, but
Me too.
it's supposedly really good for you.
Mm,
And let's say you want to try it. So you might take something like our Timekeeper kit before you start, and then you might take it
mm,
several months after when you've done some intermittent fasting on and off
wow.
and see if you're actually biologically younger.
Oh,
So through
wow.
this epigenetic test, we can tell if your biological age has changed. So
Wow.
you have your chronological age. And let me make it a little bit clear. You have your chronological age, and that's your age and birthdays.
Yes.
But we all know that you'll meet a bunch of people. You could have a bunch of 65-year-olds in one room, and some of them might die that week. And some of them will go on to be 110. And that's
Exactly.
really part of your biological clock. Your age biologically might be a lot older or a lot younger than you
Mm,
are. And the great thing is you can change it.
wow. So your biological age is like your real age, and
Hmm.
almost as
Yeah.
far as in wow medically. Wow, that's interesting. I actually want to try that. I went online and I checked. It was sold out. I was like, I said, wow, they sold
Yeah,
out.
people get pretty excited about it, and
Yeah.
it's kind of scary. But the great thing is it's something you can change. So
Mm.
it's actually scarier to have your DNA run because you might see
It is
some
scary.
disease risk genes that you right now can't change. But remember, that's only a percentage risk. So you might have genes associated with Alzheimer's, but you might not get Alzheimer's. So,
Right.
you don't have to worry about that as much, but it does put you in the category of risk. Whereas your epigenetics, you can change, and we're working on dramatically changing them.
Wow. Incredible. Um, what about the methylation kit?
Well, that's what that is.
Oh,
So
that
it,
is the
it is
methylation
the
kit.
methylation kit. Yeah. So it's whether your
Okay.
genes are methylated or not. So
Okay.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah, it's
Oh,
one of these.
wow. Um. Okay. Oh, how did you get George Church is not he's not going to just get on anybody's advisory board. You got a great team, by the way. I was looking, I was peering through, I was like, wow, you got a good team over there. I said they
We
got a
do.
great team over there. I said, I was like asking myself, how did George Church get involved with this? He doesn't get on anybody's board, but I know he doesn't. He's not going to just get on his board and risk his reputation. It has to be something with the company for him to get
Well,
involved.
I've got to say, it's kind of a funny story.
Mm-hmm.
So I had met him at the SENS conference, but I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And then I met him again, I think the next year at another conference, at which point I had started a podcast. So look at the tie-in between me and you.
Oh wow.
So I started a podcast because I thought that maybe if I educated the world, helped the world get education about what was actually going on in science and how
Mm,
wow cool this was, that we could get a lot of people on board to fund the technology and do all the things that these companies and these scientists needed.
mm,
Well, after that, probably the second year that I met him, because that must have been 2014, I came up with the idea of Bioviva. And I
wow.
emailed him and I said, how would you like to be on the scientific advisory board of a company that's going to treat humans with these therapies? We're going to take gene therapies and we're going to put them in humans. And I got an email back and he said, Liz, I'm really busy. I'm on the board of so many companies. And so I dropped it. And I believe about a month or two later, Josh Middledorf came out with an article that said, if you've got the money, they've got the time. So I emailed George and I sent him the article and I said, I bet you're glad that you didn't join, because
Mm,
I just, I thought it was funny because I thought he would not go for this.
wow.
And he emailed me back within 15 minutes and said, I'm in.
Wow. Incredible.
And it
George Church
wasn't
is a
because
man.
we were going to do risky things. It was because he was like, I want to see where this goes. You're going
Right.
to need an advisory board. You
Exactly.
can't, he has said when the media has contacted him about us before, they say, why are you on the board of this company? And he said, well, because they need advising.
Exactly. It's as simple as that. I'm glad to see him
That's
there
what they're
though.
there for.
Exactly.
We need
I'm
help.
glad to see him over there though, and I think you're doing a wonderful job as a spokesperson for this for your company. You're doing a great job, and exposing people to longevity. Also, it just seems like you're very friendly. You come off very friendly. Just people can relate to you. You seem very easy going on stage. Like it's wonderful. This watch, by the way.
You've got you would love everyone in the company. I One thing about our company is that it's a completely egos aside company.
Right.
Uh, Everyone in it is so, I mean, it's almost like it's a prerequisite. The other people just don't stick.
Wow.
We've had other people come that have
Yes.
ego and have a bunch of things
Yeah.
that, you'll, they will make bad decisions if you don't lead with
Yeah.
science and your heart. uh, you cannot lead into good science with ego,
Yes, sir.
and because people will get hurt. And
Exactly.
so you would love everyone in this company, and they would love you. We're people who are here for the whole of the world. We're not here for ourselves.
Shout outs to everybody on the advisory board at Bioviva, Super Longevity Institute. Shout outs to everyone. Maitreya One at the Super Longevity Institute appreciates everything that you're doing over there. I love it.
I'm sure they're thankful you
Love
said
it.
that. I mean, they don't often get kudos.
Love
They
it.
just get work from us.
Love it.
We are doing, I can tell you something I can tell you a couple interesting things.
Okay.
We should have some interesting patient data come out in January and then again in March. And we have a study that we've done for over 2 years now at Rutgers University. And it is a mouse study, but I'll tell you, the one thing I can tell you about it is I don't like mouse studies, and you know that, but we're working with a new vector. And so we're bringing a new design in order to bring gene therapy to humans in a different way. And you have to do basic research. And the good thing is our mice were not treated bad. They actually get to live as long as they can possibly live. And I can't talk too much about it, but I can tell you that the research was supposed to be over months ago, but some of the mice are still alive.
Whoa. They got Methuselah. The mice is still a little Methuselah. Oh, that's wonderful. Wow, thanks for sharing that.
They're not immortal, but that's okay because we're doing really simple, basic research now, and we'll start to do the combination gene therapies in the future. But this is really cool. So we're going to have a really cool scientific paper come out that hopefully everyone can get into in a few months.
I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
And I definitely would like to have you back once that research is available. You can come on the show and talk about that. We would love to hear about that.
Cool. I'm gonna have cool pictures for you too. I want
wonderful
pictures.
How you're also a member of the Complex Biological System Alliance. What's the objective of that organization?
Well, actually I haven't checked in with them for a while because I've been so busy with Bioviva. They're an organization that's actually looking at the root cause of disease through evolutionary biology. And so they have a wide net of people that don't necessarily all work together, but they all work on a similar problem, which is the strand of the evolution of disease, rather than the evolution of disease within the evolution of species. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds great. And you're also a founder of the Longevity Alliance. I didn't even know that. I was like, oh, snap, she's a founder of the Longevity. I respect what they do over there also.
Oh my God, they're so much fun. That really was founded through that 2013 conference at SENS. Every single person I met at that SENS conference in 2013, when my son was diagnosed, when I didn't know what the hell I was doing, just looking for cures for kids, they've all gone on to do amazing things.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm really proud of that group. Everybody in there has maybe some different ideas, but that's what the world needs is different ideas.
I had Dr. Stambler on the show. He's great. He seems real easygoing.
He
nice
is
also.
So smart.
Yeah,
he is so smart. And I think in the time I was came and went from the International Longevity Alliance, but he did come back, and he is look at his writing. He's amazing. He does a lot of good.
Yeah, shout outs to Dr. Stambler. I'd love to have him on the show. I enjoyed his company as well as yours. Let's see. Oh, how can like say if somebody wants to invest in Bioviva, how can they get in contact like a venture capitalist or somebody? They say, oh, you know what? I seen Maitreya's show, Super Longevity Institute podcast. I want to invest in this company. How can they go about doing that?
Yeah, so that would be something that they would just want to contact info@bioviva-science.com. We will have some investable project as soon as that paper comes out from Rutgers. We want to spin that company into its own company, so it's a little bit separate from what we do. And so we will be looking for investment for that in first quarter of 2021.
Now, Elizabeth, I know you're a very busy woman, but have you read? Have you been reading anything new lately? I know you're a very busy woman. You probably don't have enough time or like a lot of time to read. But if you are, what are the books you're reading as of now? They don't have to be science books either.
I am reading a Steven Pinker book right
Oh, I
now,
know who
and
that is.
I can't remember the name of it. It's his latest one, and I'm really bad with authors and names, but
Me
I
too.
read ever since I started this, I've read I don't know how many books
Yeah.
about genetics and genetic breakthroughs and
Mm,
things like the cures in the code that
mm,
talks about how do you get these technologies to people, to Homo Deus and
mm,
all of the Yuval Harari books.
mm,
Um, I I just I love ideas.
mm,
And so since I came in, I had to read a lot of information about genetics. And
mm.
I think almost every single day we read scientific papers. And on Wednesdays at the company, we have lit review, and that can go on for hours.
Yeah, I can
And we
imagine.
just devour papers with either PhDs or medical doctors.
Right.
And it's one of the favorite things that we do at the company. So every day I'm reading articles, but
Right.
in the evening, I will either put on an audiobook or pick up a book.
Mm,
But it's usually the books that inspire me are about biology, humanitarianism,
mm-hmm.
or positive philosophy, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of positive happening in the world, but we're losing sight of that with
Yeah,
all
it's
of
true.
the division right now.
No, I totally agree. And it's almost a marketing plan for some people to talk about drama and crazy stuff. But we won't do that here. We just talk about the positive, and
No
we keep stay
drama.
optimistic.
The our primitive mind just loves junk. It
Mm.
loves junk
Right.
food and it loves junk talk. And
Yeah.
I'm just so not about that. It's just shitty. It's
Mm-hmm.
just bad for the world. It's just
Yes.
bad for the world. It divides people,
Mm-hmm.
but we love to hear it. We love to hear about the shark attack, but actually, there's a lot of good happening in the world and we have to
Yes.
fight for it.
Yeah, this is why I like the idea of life extension because it's bringing people together and just fighting diseases in general. If anybody, all the people who's in the lab just doing the work, it brings people together because that's the real enemy. It's these diseases that's killing us and
It,
our
it
human interaction. That's what's really important. Hmm.
When I did the gene therapy in 2015, I mean, we wanted to see if we could have a medical breakthrough, if we could, in fact, create a cure for the world that everyone could benefit from. But when we released the information about it, I was not prepared for that, by the way, at all.
Mm,
But when we did release the information about it, we at least hoped that this would create, that mission to the moon, that people on all different lines of belief and social stature would actually get together and together create a new experience for the world, that
mm,
we could agree on one thing. And I'm so surprised
mm.
that we still don't see that.
Um, let me, when do you think um gene therapy will be able to because the process from getting things from clinical trials to human trials to animal trials to getting it approved by the FDA is it's a huge challenge. I
Yeah.
know the process, from working in the medical field myself. I know that there's a big process in that. When do you think that the first gene therapy will go from clinical trials to approval by the FDA?
Well, there are 5 approved gene therapies now,
Okay.
but they're for monogenic disease. So they serve a smaller population. And the
Mm.
beauty of those 5 regulated gene therapies are that they're considered one-time treatment for a lifetime cure.
Wow.
So
Okay.
there goes to show you the power of the technology. So it's
Wow.
not like magic. It's not like we're guessing. We actually see the data. There are 5 regulated therapies that hands down are cures for disease. Now, what we're looking at,
Mm.
okay, let me show you why the difference between treating aging and treating those diseases. If you have hemophilia B, or spinal muscular atrophy or lipoprotein lipase deficiency, which are some of the diseases that those treat, you have a single gene mutation. That means you have one gene that has a problem. So in those
Wow.
diseases, you just replace the gene with a healthy copy.
Wow.
Unfortunately, with aging and complex childhood disease, it's a multi-genetic
Right.
problem.
Right.
So in order to cure it, it's going to be harder because it's going to be more than one gene.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're looking for with our research and development right now. And we're going to want to combine those into one therapy. And that's the problem we're solving at Rutgers University. So treating aging, arguably, things like metformin can help a lot of people slow their aging now. Greg Fay's TRIM-X trial
Oh.
is potentially regenerating thymuses. We'll see more
Mm.
data over the time,
Yeah, I've seen
but
that.
we're looking for the whole body genetic therapy that will be
Mm.
the immunization against getting the diseases of aging.
Wow. Um. So my next question will be, in what part does artificial intelligence plays in what role does it plays in the gene therapies that you're uh researching and trying to trying to come up with? Does artificial intelligence plays any part in this type of medicine?
Well, what's interesting is right now we're working with gene therapies that have been through a lot of research already. So when
Oh.
IHS deals with gene therapies that have had reproducible results over multitude of labs and they feel are ready for humans.
Okay.
Um, Artificial intelligence will play a huge role in the future of this technology once you have some basic data to put into it. So
Okay.
if without knowing how a gene therapy will affect a biological organism, it would be impossible for AI to officially say what would happen in a human, especially because every different group of humans might have different genetic backdrop that might have benefits or non-benefits to that gene therapy. So part of Bioviva's research in or bioinformatics platform is to look at multi-omics. So we are starting from data in patients, what happens when they take a gene therapy, and then looking at their genome, their microbiome, their epigenetics, trying to see the patients who do have a difference, who have a significant benefit from a gene therapy, what is their genetic background? And
Mm.
so AI will help with that, but we need the information to be able to plug into it so that it can do it effectively. I don't think it can do it without us.
Oh, that's funny you should say that because I don't know where I read this at, but they were talking about artificial intelligence being able to simulate how these things will play out, and I was like, how does the gene therapy? I was like, that sounds strange to me. I don't know how they're gonna do that, but I'm open
Yeah,
minded.
that's I think that that's what we want it to do,
Right.
and those are the kind of things that somebody would hope, but we have to do a lot of the
Right.
work because we don't even know how all of the genes in the genome
Right.
interact with one another yet.
Right. Right.
We're learning things daily. So, it would be fantastic if you could just have this super intelligence that would go and figure it out. But without actually having data points ourselves to put into that,
Right.
yeah, neural networks are pretty cool, but I don't think that they're that advanced.
All right, so don't hit my email up talking about Madrid artificial intelligence is gonna take over the world. It still needs
Oh, and
human input. It still needs human input as of now,
yeah,
people. Thank
as
you.
of now, and of course, we want to build systems of,
Right,
what's called big data and artificial intelligence. But right
right.
now, those are big words that we have to fit our foot into the shoe.
Thank you. I just wanted to make that clear because I get some
Are we
strange
for it?
questions in my email.
Yeah, we are for artificial intelligence. We are for that
Yes,
happening,
definitely.
but don't think that it can solve your medical problems today.
Exactly.
It's
Thank
getting
you.
better, and it's actually getting pretty good with the old drugs that we had, like pharmaceuticals, the old molecules, but
Mm.
that's not the wave of the future. And so the wave of the future is in the genetics, and it will get smarter and smarter. And I hope that someday Bioviva has a very superior AI system that sorts out your gene therapy needs. But I think that it's a ways off.
Um, Another question about George Church. He helped map the genome, right? He was the
Yeah.
head of that project, the Human Genome Project. That's what that's also the credibility of him being on the advisory board, is that he's
Oh,
the
he's
head of
amazing.
the.
I don't know if you saw, but there's a
Mm,
huge movement for the pan genome now, because we
really?
don't just want the genome of one
Right.
person. We don't just want a male or a female. We just don't want a white guy or whatever. We want a pan genome. We want to have the genome of everyone,
Right.
of the very,
That's
very
right.
subtle alterations, so that we can make better drugs for everyone.
Yeah. This is a very genetic engineering, gene therapy. This is very complex.
It's
Uh,
very
It's
cool.
very cool. It's very complex because how
Mhm.
many genes do we have? Does the average human have? It's almost
Well,
it's
you have a lot of genes,
yeah
but
it's
it was believed that you have about 25,000 coding genes. But now we know that a bunch of the non-coding regions are actually telling other genes what to do.
oh
So
wow,
um,
I didn't know that.
we we used to think that the only genes that mattered were the genes that were coding for something, that were turned
Mm,
on, that made proteins. But in fact, that's expanding, and you
wow,
get viruses that integrate, and so you add genes here and there, and you have jumping genes, and there's a lot
wow.
going on in the genome.
I wonder what type of tools the scientists are using to even be able to look that is it to look at the genes that are so microscopically small. Is it a probing tunneling microscope? I don't know. Put me on if you
Well,
know.
they've used really advanced technology. Well, way back when, before Crick and Watson, there was a woman scientist who
Yeah, I seen
found
that.
the double helix and didn't know
Yes.
it. And so she was able to take an image of it. But more importantly is the combination and permutations of the A, T, Cs, and Gs that actually code for us.
Right.
And here's something that's kind of mind blowing that might get people interested. So everything that you look at that's living around you, whether it's a tree or an octopus or a cat or a dog, I mean, that's just A, T, Cs, and Gs. It's kind
Right.
of like going in your kitchen and having, let's make something up, like refried beans, rice, and tortillas. You can make a burrito, you can make a taco, you can make a
Right.
taco salad. And what's cool is we're made of these same genes, but just in a different combination.
Right.
So when we look at other species, we're able to look at them as technology. So
Mm.
you might want to look at some long-lived or some practically immortal species, or you might want to look at species that can see in billions of colors instead of the millions of colors that humans can see in,
Mm.
and see what sort of technology we might be able to take from them. And if that sounds really odd, in 2016, the
Wow.
first time they took light sensing uh, genes from algae and put them in human eyes. Not
Wow.
us, but in a proper clinical trial.
Oh
So the
wow.
ability to look around you at different superpowers or different super abilities
Mm.
goes beyond super longevity, or
Wow.
might actually play a really important role in it.
Wow, that was incredible. Thanks for sharing that. Um, Man. Well, that was wonderful. If you have anything, where can they find you? Where can they find Bioviva on the internet?
So you can go to bioviva-science.com, and that's where you can find us. And on a good day, when I haven't been just to the dentist, I might
Wow, we
I
couldn't
can actually
tell.
speak more clearly, and you can see what we do there, and you can follow links to other companies that we work with. And you can also look us up on YouTube. We have a lot of videos that we've done and different talks that I've done, and maybe we might even have the meeting with the Dalai Lama that I did in the
Wow,
Netherlands.
that would be cool.
If you're interested in things like that,
I
I've
am.
spoken with the Dalai Lama. I've spoken with the Mormon transhumanists and the
Oh yeah, I've seen that
Christian
too.
transhumanists.
I seen that. That was wonderful. Everybody's can get down with this movement.
Yeah,
Um,
you gotta get down with it. I mean,
yeah.
it is you want to live unlimited, you want to live long. We've got to get out of this deathism,
Yes.
cap your ass society, because it's not the way to go. It's not unlimited. it's
That's right.
it's limited thinking, and the future is for open minds and adaptability.
Wow. Elizabeth Parrish, y'all. We'd love to have you back on. This was wonderful. I'm inspired by Bioviva. Um, and I definitely would like to have you on as soon as you get that the results for the results from the
Rutgers
research
study.
at the Ruckus. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do it. It's gonna be cool, and it's a lot to look forward to. And then what we go on to do from there is what is going to be more amazing, because then we're gonna knock your socks off again.
See, you know what your story reminds me? Your story is it reminds me of Martine Rothblake for some reason. She has like a similar story to you. You're both inspired by your children. It's incredible. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you never ever
So
get in the
dope.
way of a mother and her child. And when disease
I love it.
did, I'm taking it down.
That's why these stories are the story behind what you're doing is so important. You and Martine Rothblake's story, what y'all do, what the thing that sparked y'all into the movement is so unique, and I think that more
Yeah,
people need to
she
hear
got
that.
it for her child too. You don't get it
Mhm.
in between somebody's heart and a mission. Um, you know, it's the most powerful thing is love.
Yes.
And if anything can stick with you, I mean, that's the thing. You got to look around, and
Yeah.
you got to find your love, and in it you'll find your mission.
Mm.
It was devastating to have my son
Wow.
diagnosed with a disease that I didn't understand, that a disease that every time he eats, he has to take insulin, that
Mm.
if he takes too much, it'll kill him
Wow.
within an hour. And if he takes too little, he can die in a coma. And every day we struggle with that. And you know what? I guess it's for a reason, because now I'm here and I'm not going to stop.
That's
And
right.
if you like me or you don't like me, I don't care, because I'm going to make your life better.
Well, I'm gonna end it on that night. We love you, Elizabeth Paris. Thank you. Have a great evening, and thank you very much for coming on. She's a very busy lady. I'm telling
Thank
y'all
you.
right now. I'm so glad to have you on, and have a great evening.
You too. I am so happy to be here and to meet your listeners. And we need to broaden that. We
That's
need to
right.
get everybody listening. And anyone who's not listening to you, they're making a big mistake. Their life depends on it. It
That's
depends
right.
on every one of us coming together with a mission, and a mission that actually is something we want to live up to. Not just something that's cool or edgy, but something we want to live up to. That's all of the
Exactly.
things we need.
Exactly. One love. Have a great evening.
Thank you.